All right, you're the few, the proud. You've lasted to the last session. So thank you for doing that. Doing a passion talk is an interesting topic because you have a million passions in your life. And I think that one of my passions is also one of my biggest fears and one of my biggest concerns in my life, and that's the church. I have an opportunity to work with 7,320 churches in the Bay Area. But I know that 65% of the church plants that we plant right now will close in 3 years. 4,000 churches close every single year in America. And 27.2 million people have been completely disengaged in church since 2010. Yet we know the church is the bride of Christ. We know what Jesus is coming back for. And we know God is trying to use the church to touch his dying world. What's interesting is we look at the Bible and we think about, God, didn't you give us an instruction for how to run the church? We look in Corinthians and we see the apostle, the prophet, the pastor, the teacher, and the evangelist. But I suppose if you were to really think about it, in modern day, it's the apostle, prophet, pastor, teacher, and worship leader, right? And doesn't that make a little bit more sense when we're trying to grow our churches? Where is the evangelist gone? It's my conviction that the evangelist has been disconnected from the fivefold ministry. He's been disenfranchised. He's been cut off. He's the nonprofit that sits here in this room. He's you. He's me. He's the nonprofit. He's the one that walks the streets. He's the one that can balance the proclamation and the demonstration. He's the one that loves with God's love, but also gives a warm blanket and gives love to the people on the street. But that evangelist, the one that was designed to sit the fivefold, the one that was to sit at the table that God designed to run the church, he's now under the table getting crumbs from our decision-making tables. So what's the problem with this, and what is the paradigm that we have to face? Well, I see 3 problems. I'll just share 3 of them for the sake of time. 1, guess what? We have to put up with nonprofits in our pulpit every Sunday. Now, as a nonprofit, I'm okay with that. But quite frankly, it's annoying. Because every single week in the church, we give the pulpit to 1 or 2 pulpit announcements for them to raise their annual fund for their ministry. And the only time we get to see them is when they're asking for money. Am I annoyed by them? No. I'm annoyed that they have to come and beg at the table that God has created them to sit at. They spend over 50% of their time fundraising. Every nonprofit CEO that I meet with says I spend 50% of my time. I never got in this to be a resource development organization. I never got in this to go plea with my church to care about the people in the Tenderloin or the Dog Patch or Fremont or the people, the human trafficking victims. Yet we have to convince our pulpits that we get that money, because if we don't have that money, ministry will change. Why did this problem occur? Well, it's kind of like our conversation right now. See, you went to church Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. And while everybody else heard a message of the gospel, you started to hear something in your mind and heart. Wow, Jesus reached out to that prostitute. Wow, Jesus healed that dying man. Wow, the apostles and the disciples, they gave vision, they gave walking and mobility to people. And your heart grew and you grew and you grew and you grew and you got excited for the outside world. So you went to your pastor and you said, Pastor, guess what? I got a fantastic opportunity. God's calling me to the ministry. God's calling me to outreach. God's calling me to do something powerful. And he looked at his agenda and he saw, well, we have 1 or 2 ministries, 3 ministries, 4 ministries. We're well-rounded. We do schools, we do poor, and we do international. Your ministry is not in my book. This isn't a slam to a church. This is that we don't know how to do it differently. And so you went away sad, and then we sent you out. Really, we cut you off. And we sent you out to be a nonprofit, and we disconnected you from the church. And now we're not even sure that we'll take your phone call. The second problem I see with this is that when evangelists do get people saved through whatever ministry that they engage in, guess what happens? They don't point new believers back to the church. Why is that? Well, they themselves are disenamored and disenfranchised and not convinced that the church has been good to them, so why would the church be good to their newly orphaned kid or new babies that are soon going to be orphans? What's the problem? The evangelist makes a terrible discipler. You ever see an evangelist disciple a new baby Christian? They're terrible. It's painful. 3 weeks later, we have orphans all over the place. The evangelist doesn't trust the pastor that he went to be sent out and to be loved, that he's going to raise their kids right. So where are we seeing the decline? We're not seeing new babies in our church. We must reconnect the evangelist back to the fivefold ministry. Now, what's the third problem? And I'll close with this one. Well, evangelists, truth of the matter, now that they spend 50% of their time fundraising, and they have about 20% of a budget, if that, they relegate themselves to mostly anecdotal work that will make sure to take care of their team and to reach the one or two people they can reach with the budget they've been given. Now they're making slides with babies with flies on their noses and taking trips and trying to do compelling arguments to get the body of Christ to care. And they've had to walk away from their mission and not do it in the robust way that God had called them to on that day when he spoke to their heart and said, reach out, do justice, be kind, reach the widow, reach the orphan, and love my people. So where does that leave the church? Well, someday I want to be in heaven when the pastor gets up there. And I speak from a pastor, just so you know. I've pastored for a long time, so we hurt the ones we love. We get up to heaven, and we sit up there and we say, hey, I'm here to come into heaven. And Jesus says, great. So you're a pastor? Yeah, I'm a pastor. Great. What'd you guys do for the dying world, your communities and your neighborhoods around you? Well, I hired a community transformation specialist. Wow, that sounds impressive. So what'd you guys do? Turkey's backpacks. What was that? Did you say you have a turkey backpack? No, we did turkeys once a year because we were celebrating the independence from England. And so we had our communities have turkeys, and we gave out turkeys. What else did you do? Well, we gave out backpacks. Well, how many kids need backpacks? Well, gosh, education is very important to our church. So we gave away backpacks. What else did you guys do? Well, we did Christmas. We gave a lot of bikes away. And I could just see the look on Jesus' face. Wait a second, you forgot. See, the prime product of the church is to reach people with the gospel of Jesus Christ. The byproduct is that our churches would grow daily with those who believed. We've gotten the cart in front of the horse. Our focus as a church and people of God is to serve and to love and to minister and to outreach. The byproduct is people get saved and these seats are filled. I love this church, this Convergence Church, for hosting this. But as I look at the room, I say, where is the church? And I look at you as nonprofit leaders, and I say, you get it. Now let's reconnect the evangelists back to the fivefold ministry. And you know why? Jesus is not coming back for his amputee bride. A church without its arms and its legs. Would you close your eyes for 1 second?
We Mass Media, media empowering community.